the Radio Forest Podcast.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, Steve Shippy. Welcome today, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
First question, super serious, very important. Are you down with the clown?
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, absolutely. I've done many shows with those guys.
Yeah, you've done quite a bit of stuff with Twisted, and I know you've been at the gathering of the Juggalos, so you probably at least met those guys and toured and played and been around that whole group quite a few times in your life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, a ton. Especially with Twisted, I've done, God, I don't even know, at least 100, 150 shows probably with them, probably close to a dozen songs over the years.
And I know you've worked with Tech Nine a lot, too.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. In fact, I'm still signed to Strange Music, which is Tech Nine's record label, and have been since '03.
So how did you first get in touch with him? I believe you guys are in different areas, at least where you're based from.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in Michigan, and of course they're out of Kansas City, Missouri. Long story short, I'd been doing music for quite some time and was really enjoying the music coming out of Strange Music, and reached out to the owner, the CEO, one of the owners, Travis O'Gwen. Just kind of let him know, hey, while I'm out here promoting my stuff and my friends' music, I'd like to promote your guys's. And he's like, all right, well, we'll send a couple of things your way, and that's always Travis making an understatement. And next thing I know, there's a massive DHL truck dropping off pallets and pallets of promotion. And I remember thinking, well, I'm going to keep my word on this, but this is going to be a very difficult job. But, sure enough, we started promoting that everywhere, and just wanted to do that just to help out because I believed in what they were doing. And then one day he reached out to me and said, hey, you do your own music, right? I said, yeah, and he's like, well, you never sent me anything. Why don't you send me something? And we did, and we got a phone call a couple of days later to review a record contract, and the rest is history.
Have you ever run into DMX?
Yes. Here's my DMX story. Pretty interesting. In fact, I was on tour with Tech Nine, and we were in Tempe, Arizona. Just got done with a show. We went to Denny's, myself and my crew, and we're sitting there eating, and a friend of mine at the table said, hey, Steve, your new record, who are you trying to get on there? You got any idea for any special guests this time? And I said, yeah, a couple of people. I'd like to get Twista. I'd love to get DMX. And a couple of gentlemen that were sitting at a booth next to us kind of looked over, and the guy says, did you say DMX? I said, yeah, and he's like, okay, you trying to work with him or something? Or I'm like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what we're talking about. And he said, all right, hold on a minute. And he pulled out a cell phone, and he calls somebody, and he's like, hey, put so-and-so on the phone. And then this guy gets on the phone, and he's like, hey, is X still over there? Okay, yeah, tell him to come outside next door, right next door here at Denny's right now. And then he hangs up and he looks at me and he's like, yeah, I own a club, like half a block away from here. DMX is there right now. He's on the way to come talk to you. And I'm kind of looking at this guy like, either he's completely full of it, or next thing you know, true to life, this guy with a presence larger than life, DMX, comes bursting into Denny's, talking loud and crazy. Hey, what's up? Who's trying to talk to me? What's going on? And next thing you know, he has us come outside and pops in an instrumental CD and just starts rapping. He's in the parking lot just rapping like crazy, and in between the beats, he'd say, all right, well, we could do this, and let's do this. When are you trying to get in the studio? And we were just kind of like blown away, with this experience. And we probably talked to him for an hour and then exchanged numbers. And then, we had to get on the tour bus and head out. But that was my story.
That must have been surreal. So I'm at Denny's and DMX comes to see me and then he raps in the parking lot. People are like, there's no way that happened.
At least an hour of rap. I mean, this guy was a machine, man. We couldn't really even believe it. In fact, somebody just tagged me on Facebook a couple of days ago. It's probably on my wall right now. One of the guys that were with me, and he's like, hey, thanks to Steve, I was able to meet DMX, 10 years ago. And I think he shared his photo that he was able to take with him in the parking lot.
That's really cool. Talking to Steve Shippy, and I kind of got off track there a little bit. We're supposed to be talking kind of more of a horror paranormal theme on the Shock Docs. We've got the story of Ed Gein. Why don't you tell me a little bit about you guys were some of the first people to get in there, or maybe the first ones with cameras, investigate the house, kind of go over the property, see what you could find?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were the first paranormal investigators to ever be granted access to the Ed Gein property to investigate. It was very difficult to obtain that permission. The owner makes it fairly difficult to find out who he is and be able to contact him in any way. But finally, we were able to win them over and get access to it. But beyond just the Ed Gein property and the farm, we investigated the local cemetery. We investigated the Washoe County Historical Society, which used to be the jail, which Gein was held in, questioned, interrogated, and other hotspots.
Now, I find myself being pretty torn because complete psycho. This guy had body parts hidden in his house. He had decapitated body. He made belts and lampshades out of skin. You know, he's the basis for Leatherface and a whole bunch of these scary psychos. But his childhood story to me has always been just so tugging at my heartstrings. I want to know if you kind of go through the same thing, because he's got some sort of learning disability. They're pretty sure. His father's an alcoholic. His mother's abusive. I mean, I think of him as a little boy going through this, and it kind of wrecks me, but I'm torn with, hey, this is an evil guy.
I agree with you 100%. And went through the same emotions as you, right? So we're neck deep in this investigation, and we find ourselves starting to have empathy for this guy. And then, you feel conflicted, much like you just said, you're sitting here having empathy for somebody that caused so much carnage and ruined lives and families and horrified a community. And, but at the same time, we have to think, just as you said, growing up with an abusive family, horrible environment, kids are innocent, humans are brought into the world innocent. And at one time, Gein was. And sadly, we always will have to wonder, would Ed Gein have become the monster he became under different circumstances? It is sad. It is very unfortunate. So a lot of those feelings you have, I did too.
What did you guys determine at the end? Do you think the property is haunted? Because, right, didn't the house get burnt down? Isn't it just kind of the property now?
Yes. So basically, right after his arrest, there was a huge media frenzy happening. Obviously, all the national news was converging on the town. This was, became worldwide news, not just national. And somebody went out there and just burnt it down, just leveled it, because, they thought, maybe this would put an end to it and people would just get the heck out of town and leave it be. But we were able to investigate, the property, the farm, the exact location where the house once stood. That was our basis for the property there.
Do you think it's haunted then?
100%. We have no doubt.
Do you think it's connected to Ed? You think it's part of that lore, that spirit, that power?
I do. I definitely do.
Now, in the things that you've seen throughout your huge career with paranormal and going back to these famous houses and famous places that have been haunted, and even your own childhood home that you experience all kinds of weird things, where would you rank this on like a scale of 1 to 10? Say 1 is definitely haunted and 10 is the most haunted you've ever seen. I would
probably put it around an 8 or a 9. 10 to me would be as extreme as it gets. So it's definitely right up there. I've been doing a paranormal investigation for 20 plus years. I have 10 investigation films of my own. All of those can be found on Amazon Prime. If you have a Prime account, you can stream them for free. So we've done some pretty intense cases, A Haunting on Dutch Road being one of the most prolific cases of my career. But this definitely ranked up there with the best of them as far as activity is concerned.
So you're saying it's not like, it was kind of creepy and we saw some weird stuff. You're like, no, 100%, it's haunted. Something different, something paranormal is happening.
100%. I'm giving a short answer there, but only because I want to be very clear, 100% yes.
Something I've always wondered about his story, Ed's, is it's super mysterious death of his brother. Do you think, and maybe you could kind of wrap around it real quick what I'm referring to, do you think he killed his brother?
Of course, this would be opinion that I'm about to give, just my opinion, but I do believe it's very probable that he did. When you look at all the facts of his brother's death, the fact that he went to the authorities, my brother's missing, I don't know where he is, I don't know what happened, but yet somehow he brought them right to his body. And from the reports that we read and from what we were told, it looked like there was some blunt force trauma and some other things, not just, the smoke inhalation from the fire that he was trying to put out, a forest fire type of situation was happening. And it just seems very strange to me that Gein said, I don't know where he could be out there on the property, but yet pretty much made a beeline right to his body. A lot of people theorized that that could have been Gein's first victim.
Gein was kind of the inspiration for some of the bad guys like Silence of the Lambs, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho. It's Shock Docs, Ed Gein, The Real Psycho, streaming now on Discovery Plus. We're here with Steve Shippy. Steve, congratulations. I hope to get to see some more of your things that you guys always do through Shock Docs and now your paranormal investigation. And thank you for the DMX story, man. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that with us today.
Yeah, 100%.